The following vodcast contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this vodcast is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Welcome to a special day one of the Championships edition of So We Think. Ben Way, before we look forward to this Saturday, let's reflect on a Group 1 Tuesday at Rosehill Gardens with Dubai Honour winning the Tancred and Treasure the Moment winning the Vinery.
As described to me by Darren Beedman yesterday at the races, had a bit of a COVID-y feel to it.
It was a big COVID-y vibe.
Watching back and watching live some of the interviews and everything, it was weird because the questions were exactly the same, emotive and generating great answers. The answers were essentially the same as what you would anticipate, but without that nat sound, that natural sound, the audio of the crowd and the excitement, hum of the whole thing, it just fell that little bit flat. That said, the racing on track was elite. We talked on the show last week about Dubai Honour, who, God bless him, got the job done. And we've now seen a trim up in that QE market, which we anticipated as well, which, you know, $1.65, $1.70, $8 didn't feel fair for a horse of his quality, and now we're seeing him in around the $5.50, $6 mark. So, yeah, big changes there. What was the highlight for you?
Yeah, chatting to Tom Marquand post-race, he was probably the most emotional of all the connections to win a Group 1 on the day. I always love chatting to Tom. He's a great guy to chat with post-race.
So we think's very own.
You're correct.
Tom Marquand.
He'll give you his exact thoughts, and he'll have a bit of emotion about him. And I love the way we talked about Dubai Honour. Like, he's a cool dude of a horse. Like, he's just, you'd even see when saddle comes off and he's, you know, about to get the rug over him. He just has this cool swagger about him.
Yeah. I like the excitement too out of the William Haggis team, which I didn't think we'd get because it almost feels like a fait accompli they would come here and win. 6
Group 1s here over the last 5 years, plus the Golden Eagle as well, which we'll probably call in Group 1 territory because it's worth so much money. They just know how to travel a horse, don't they? And
the prize money here isn't that far short of what he's won over in Europe over the same time span with more than 1,000 more runners. That just shows you how good the prize money is here, but it also shows you how successful they've been. I thought Treasure the Moment was every bit amazing. As good as we thought she would be.
Charlewolf is going to have to improve a couple of lengths to be competitive in that Queen Elizabeth. I know he didn't enjoy the sticky ground, but I still think he's going to have to improve.
Can he win the Queen Elizabeth?
Off that?
Off that.
I love our Gold Hope, but she was half a nose off him. Off that, it's going to have to take a big bounce. He's going to have to come through that ultra well, get dry ground, draw well. We don't know if Pride of Jenny's in that race yet, so that probably adds something to it as well. But off what I saw Tuesday, no, I don't think he can win it.
Do you think we should see Pride of Jenny in the race?
No, I don't think we should.
Neither do I.
I think she should be retired.
Yeah.
Now that I
don't think that necessarily means it was the wrong decision to bring her back.
I agree, but when you look on the body of work there over the last 4 starts, and yes, there are extenuating circumstances at the end of her spring preparation, e.g. 1 week between a Cox Plate and a King Charles III. 3 of her last 4 runs, she's done that. Yeah. 3 of her last 4.
She's telling you.
I think so. And she might not be telling you that at home, but she's telling you that I can't keep up this crazy gallop mid-race anymore.
A big show coming up.
Yeah, really big show. We're going to chat to 2 very special guests. John O'Shea, of course, he's got a great hand for day 1, including linebacker in the Doncaster Mile. And then Tommy Berry's also going to join us too. But before we get to those interviews, there's something from yesterday and one of your interviews that I just wanted to reveal.
This will be good.
To our listeners and our viewers, because this had me chuckling big time at Warwick Farm on Wednesday.
Oh, Hope. As mentioned by Brad, his half-sister Manukau will run around a little bit later in the day. What do you expect of him?
I'll respectably correct you. It's Hope.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. That's good to know. Explain that to me. Do you know why?
He's from New Zealand.
Right.
Or the name is from New Zealand. It's a coastal town in New Zealand. So Hope.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope he runs well. Do you?
Hope he pays.
Yeah.
Darren Beedman.
He was so excited to pull me up on that.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, could have done the sneaky just a heads up. It's hope, just in case you
Not
got it.
hope.
But no, he waited, and fair enough too, because I would have done exactly the same thing.
And
in
you were
reverse.
stitched up because there was 2 Godolphin runners in that race, and that's the one you would be going, that's the one I didn't expect to stuff up.
Gaeilge has vows where they just shouldn't exist, right? It's essentially Gaelic for Gaelic, I think. And so that was the one I was mostly focused on. There's been a little bit of discussion about the word Manukau, who they had later on. Apparently in Maori, it's technically Manuko, but everybody refers to that place as Manukau, right? So I had those 2 in my head, and the only one I was rock solid on,
So Hope.
Ohope. Ohope. Done. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to respectively pull you up on there, or whatever he said. I had a good chuckle about it, but it did make me think, sometimes it is the ones that are the most, you think they're so obvious one way that they lead you astray. What's one that you've struggled
there's
with?
names that we struggle with. I mean, that Yulong mare, Pulchritudinous.
Pulchritudinous. Yeah, from New
That's
Zealand.
the one.
Yeah.
That one
It's ended up with
a
Waterhouse and
doozy.
Bott, hasn't it?
That one's just awful. The one in Victoria over the last couple of seasons that I constantly got wrong is Pink, Beautye. I just was calling it Pink Beauty, and it's Pink Bow Tie. Like, come on, guys, really?
The combining, putting the words together, because you can only have so many
But
letters.
not even spelt correctly,
Yeah.
putting them together. Like, are you having a laugh?
Yeah, that's a little awkward. So there are problems with ownerships not necessarily agreeing. And say, for example, one I was calling Yonka, because Pat Yonka was a famous Australian cyclist that was in the Tour de France and
You're
things
wrong.
like that. But apparently it was named after the diamond, the Jonker diamond, right? Which weirdly was named after a Dutchman who was Jonker. And yet it's the Jonker diamond. So that one caused me a little bit of grief.
Heartache.
You can see that this is
Hang on. Let's delve into name territory of trainers. Like, it's Björn Baker. We hear lots of people saying Bjorn, but
if you go to his website, he has Bjorn Baker, as in the name, or Björn Baker, whatever he chooses to go with, across here. But then he has in phonetics, and I believe the way I read the phonetics was then a Bjorn. So, Björn, can you please clarify that one for us?
well, every time he does a post-race interview and he's like, ownership opportunities at björnbaker.com.au.
If he's not pushing forklifts or whatever it is that he's always pushing, it's
Yeah.
to get
They
shares.
are the one.
Tell you what, they won the last race again the other day. Mad. They just keep on doing it at about 30-1 too.
On that note, just if you've got a name that you're struggling with or that you feel is just too tricky for us mere mortals when it comes to the sport of racing, send it in to the mailbag, social media platforms. Another way that I deal with tricky names, and Jason Richardson and I both do this on
I know you do.
the Seven
because you
coverage.
did it to me for a couple of years.
If we're struggling with something, we will say the gelded son of Farnan
Yeah.
or the filly by Snitzel.
No, correction. This is what you do. And last of all, we have the filly by Snitzel, who ran second last start. Nice run, closing well, up in trip, nice weight, looks a good chance. And that horse heads the market, Ben. And then I'm left with Pulchritudinous or whoever it is to try to contend with it. And I know exactly what you guys are up to. Yeah. The worst one I've ever copped in my previous life at Fox Sports News was up on the auto cue. We would say, right, it appears it's a black screen with white writing. You know the drill. And then phonetics, we would put them, green can't be seen, red appears in bold.
Okay.
Right? So if you want it in the script on the computer, put it in green. If you wanted it to appear on the auto cue, you put it in red. Well, I had a football player, forgive me everyone, called James Rodriguez. I go, and another brilliant goal by James Rodriguez. The whole football department. Oh, jeez, how do you not know it's James Rodriguez? I said, give me a spell. If you want that to be James, it's bracket, bold, Harmez.
M-E-Z.
Yeah. James Rodriguez. So that one is still number one. That got me badly.
Send us through any names that you're struggling with. We'd love to hear them.
In world sport.
In world sport, not just racing, but kudos to Darren Beedman for pulling you up deluxe there the midweeks.
You know what? I deserved it.
There is one stable in Sydney that is on fire at the moment, and it's John O'Shea and Thomas Charlton as John refers to him as, 2 Group 1s in a month, including linebacker in the Randwick Guineas and Schwartz in the William Redo, a stallion-making effort by the team. And he's got a great hand at Royal Randwick for day one of the championships on Saturday, and he joins us on So We Think. Good morning, Mr. O'Shea. Tell us about the last month and how the team has really come together. You and Tom are working obviously incredibly well together and you're getting the results. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's ideally you'd like to think that the horses all come to the nice plan at the end of the season, and they're all coming to fruition. So yeah, it's been a very pleasing month so far, and hopefully we can continue it on the next week or so.
When you are a partnership, and John, great to hear from you as it always is. When you have a partnership, I'm sure that you want to relish in the successes of your co-trainer, and up until recently, he didn't get that Group 1 success. It wasn't a long wait,
No.
But it's always nice to get that monkey off the back. Just tell us how you felt in Tom being able to succeed at that top level and celebrate those successes together.
It's very rewarding because Tom deserves, all the accolades that he's getting, because he worked very hard to get to where he is, and subsequently a little bit of success in the last month or two has been very rewarding for him. So we're very pleased to see him do so well.
All right, let's get into Saturday because you guys have got a great hand, including linebacker in the Doncaster, a race that you've won on 3 occasions. John, tell us how he's done over the last month or so, because you've given him a little bit of a break, couple of trials in there to keep him up to the mark. But how is linebacker?
Look, he's going as good as he possibly can go. We just got to hope that that's good enough for him to get the job done. He's very fit, he's very happy, he's very sound, and he's got a good affiliation for the mile at Randwick, and particularly on dry ground. So he's going to get a scenario like that on Saturday, and we just need good execution in the race, and there's no doubting he'll be in the finish.
I don't know how closely you look at markets and those sorts of things, John, but are you surprised that he's favourite?
I think if you work off historical precedents, there's a lot of precedents there that suggest that he's entitled to be very short in the market. He probably, has better form than racing to win. He's got similar form to Celestial Legend. So, there's a lot of things to say that, he's entitled to be short in the market.
Tell me about Polymnia, because I know there's a little bit of excitement in the camp about her running in the Adrian Knox. Of course, she broke her maiden last start, and it's a race that you won last year, John. She's obviously a filly with plenty of talent.
Yeah, well, I think the key for her, Em, is just to get herself a kill and get herself on the board, and she's really thrived since that. She's got a lovely turn of speed for a filly that can run 10 furlongs. So we won this race last year. We're probably, more confident this year going into the race. I think we've got our filly going really well, and consequently, we think she can give a very good account of herself.
The other one, Em, is King of Thunder that we're all excited to see. What did you make of the last run out of interest?
I think it was the perfect lead up to the Derby, and I hope you agree, John. I reckon he's humming along. Of course, he ran in the Vic Derby, but that run on Tuesday and the quick backup, I think there's 6 backing up quickly from the Tulloch on Tuesday, but I just feel like he's humming along beautifully for you.
Yeah, we couldn't be happier with him. He wasn't overly effective in the ground last Saturday, and on Tuesday, sorry. And getting back on top of the ground would be better for him. And he's a dead set mile and a half. It's a genuine run mile and a half this Derby, and he looks to map really well to get to do no work first part of the race. So he's bounced off that run. He hasn't knocked him around at all, and it's just a really nice race for him in what's a pretty strong rendition of this Derby.
Yeah, it certainly is. I know that we sort of went through linebacker and his form, but we kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about the personality, didn't we?
Well,
linebacker?
I mean, John, it's been much discussed, and we've discussed it before as well. Before he was gelded, and there was times that we saw him in the yard, and we're going, "Oh God, what are you doing?" And you can kind of understand, in a way, what was going through his head. He was just very excited. He wanted to get out there, and he's just, starry-eyed. But when you saw that happen in the pre-incarnation of linebacker, I want to know what was going through your mind. Are you like me when my kid is playing up at the supermarket and you're going, Please don't do it. Please don't do it. No.
You're doing it.
Is that what it was like?
Look, it was very hard because at the time I just got out of hospital. I was sitting on the couch with my leg in the air, so I was watching it all from home and getting it all conveyed second hand, and it's very frustrating when you can't participate and assist. So, the die was cast for him after the Golden Rose, and he raced on Saturday, was cut on Sunday, so we didn't think too much about how to remedy it. It was all done.
You both had a leg in the air by the sounds of it. I tell you what, in a weird way, it makes him so endearing because, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't necessarily need to be positioned next to a filly, whether it be in the stalls or even in a race. In fact, he could even parade by himself and would still get himself quite excited by just the prospect of being there. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Look, he was fundamentally a kind horse, but he just, when he got around other animals, he just wanted to sing out and tell them how good he was. And, he's just a very amorous sort of fellow and just wasn't concentrating on the job at hand.
God love him, though, because as John says, he's obviously a kind horse to deal with, but just very excitable, like many of us are at different, stages of our life.
I didn't want to draw comparisons to John and myself in, earlier stages of our life, but there are certainly things I wish that we had in common. But anyway.
But now he's a Group 1 winner and he could win another one on Saturday.
I can't wait to see him. And speaking of amorous and kind, I do want to ask John about a certain personality, but it's not linebacker, it's his own. Because, John, I don't know if you were aware, but on Channel 7's coverage, they must have done these chats with various jockeys and trainers and everything over the years, and they asked them certain questions and then they put them all together as these packages, which are quite lovely, Em, I think. But there is one.
I hope John knows that I haven't had a hand in this.
Well, I think he might have had a hand in it. But there is one. Well, there are two, actually. One is who's given you the biggest bake of all time, asked to several jockeys. And the other one is who is the scariest person in racing. Now, I don't know whether you've seen these clips, but I think it's fair to say there is a fairly common denominator through it. In every dealing I've had with you...
And me too.
And Em, you seem very friendly and kind. What has happened behind the scenes?
I don't know, mate. I think, I got no idea, to be honest. Jockeys, some of those comments are from people that I've never even ridden for me. So
really,
I've got no idea. I just misunderstood, I think, and fundamentally, as my wife said, I'm just a big soft teddy bear.
Well, that's the impression that I get. Have you ever had one? Let's say it was a one-off. Right. Have you ever had one, where you thought, geez, I've gone overboard. I've been properly unhinged there. Like, is there one that you wish you could rewind and just go, I've gone over the top?
Probably if you go back in a previous life, Darren Beedman rode a horse for me called Bedouin in a 10 furlong weight for age race, and suffice to say that it wasn't my turn on that day, and in them days, I was having a bet and couldn't probably afford to have a bet. So when he came in, I brought to his attention his shortcomings, and that was probably as good a spray as I've ever given anyone.
We love you, John, and
I've actually been told by one of your relatives they've adopted I won't dob them in, but they've adopted a new tactic. They say a bake can only get you so much of a response, whereas if the jockey hops off the horse and returns to scale or returns full stop, and there's no one there waiting for them, that can actually play more of a mind game.
That's a Will Friedman tactic.
I didn't want to dob him in. But yes,
he's the easiest one to pick in the world.
Maybe it was Will. Hey, I enjoy every time we get to have a chat, John, and I'm certainly going to be cheering you on Saturday. Best of luck with it all, and I've loved seeing you guys succeed over the past couple of months. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, you deserve all the success, John, and I reckon you're in for a cracking day on Saturday, and it looks like you're out to the sales at the moment, so hopefully you can go and find yourself your next champ as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, eh?
Thanks, John. John O'Shea there. So 31 Group 1s next to his name, 2 next to Tom Charlton's name, and it's just a great little patch they're going through at the moment, and I'm glad that he He came clean on a couple of things too. Poor Darren Beedman.
Of all people, Darren, they ended up working together and I think
Yeah.
are quite tight. So that's good.
Very lucky today because it is the championships. It's day one and we need two guests to really rev up the podcast today. And glad to say that Tommy Berry is our next guest for a number of different reasons, because today is the anniversary of his brother Nathan's passing 11 years ago. We need to celebrate that and celebrate that the person that he was, of course, the Nathan Berry medal given out over the course of the championships, but also Tommy's riding oh so well at the moment, a Group 1 on board Gringotts a couple of weeks back, and he partners back with Gringotts in the Doncaster on Saturday, where you got to give them a big shout as well. Welcome, TB.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Tommy Turf, a forgotten man. Now suddenly he's a Group 1 winner again. Geez, it was good watching your interview with Tommy the other week and seeing the emotion. And I loved the fact that you felt as though you'd kept it together, Tommy, until you saw your beautiful partner, and then it was everything was all over from there. She was emotional, and as a result, you were too. How good did it feel to be back winning Group 1s?
Yeah, no, it was a great feeling at time coming, and when you see your loved ones there, they're the ones that were there through tough times and a hard time to get back to the top. And I remember talking to Glenn Boss when I was younger, and I said, "Why do you carry on the way you do after a Group 1 every time you win one?" And he said, "Because you never know when your next one's going to be." And at that point in time, I was right. I'm going to quite often, and to be out of that sort of stage for a while and to be back was worth celebrating.
We gave you a big pump up on here last week, mate, because you are one of my favourite people on race day to chat to, because you wear your heart on your sleeve. And
Not the favourite. I think she ranked you number 4.
But you do. I love how you do celebrate things, and you get emotional. And I know we've talked about it often. You are an emotional guy, but I love that. And I wish that there was more people in racing who would be like that, because there is so much hard work that goes into riding each and every day, let alone the Group 1 meetings. Like, to get those big victories, I love seeing people being overcome, and it's not a weakness.
No. Weirdly, it's one of the few sports that are left that doesn't create a cookie-cutter person. Like, we've got the variety of people in our sport, whereas you do one Aussie Rules interview, you've done 1,000.
Yeah.
Don't you think? You're getting the same replies, whereas I agree, you never quite know what you're going to get, which is nice.
Have you ever felt pressure in your life, Tom, to I don't know, pull things together in a point where you are that, like, you're not a vanilla bloke, but like there are some other people in the sport who are. Have you ever felt pressure to, like, I guess, assimilate to those conventions?
No, not really. I've always felt that I can be true to myself and everyone else around me. And sometimes that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I feel like a lot of people have been along for the ride with me, and I'm not ashamed of the person I am, whether it's been the good times or the bad times or the things I've had to learn from in the past. So, obviously, I've had things happen to me in my life that brings out emotion a lot more than probably it did when I was a bit younger.
I love that, because I agree. I'm not everyone's cup of tea as well, but
No
I
one's
am who
everyone's
I.
cup
Yeah,
of
but
tea.
you got to be who you are, and if you're not, who are you? Trying to pretend.
I wish I could be me a little bit less sometimes. Hey, Tommy, you spoke about some of those emotional times, and we got to have a really good chat last year when 10 years came up, and now it's 11 years, which boggles my mind. I can only imagine how you feel. One part of that chat that I loved was you talking about some people, when someone passes, they get the odd reminder. Well, Tommy gets a reminder every time he looks in the mirror.
How are you feeling today, mate? It's a tough day. I know you want to celebrate him, and we all want to celebrate him, and he deserves to be celebrated each and every day. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's a tough day. It's as the years get on, you feel like he's getting further and further away from you. You're trying to bring him in closer and closer.
It's we certainly think of you each and every year, and one story in any of the situation similar to this, I like to try and think of the happy times. And I didn't know Nath. I didn't even meet him. I've only really known of him through Tommy. But one of the stories I absolutely loved that Tommy's told on a couple of occasions, but I don't know that we've heard it here on So We Think, is about the time you had to essentially replace him in a steward's inquiry so that he could go on a date. So for those who haven't heard it before, Tommy, you can't get in trouble. There's got to be what's it called when enough time passes and you can no longer be held accountable for a
okay.
crime? I think enough time has elapsed that you'll be in the clear here. But just tell everyone what happened.
Yeah, it's funny because when I've told this, obviously happened in Dubai, and there was a day at Ascot, and the last race, I remember coming in after the last race, and that came up to me and he said, "Mate, I'm probably in a little bit of trouble on the 100 corner there. I've got a date to do, so can we swap silk and you go on and rep? And I'll continue on my merry way." He said, "Nah." He said, "Just a little bit of general bunching, mate. It won't take long." So anyway, I walked in and I led that race. I didn't realise what was going on. I walk into the room and then another jockey walked in and another one. And the stewards asked me what I thought had happened. They usually do. And I said, "Oh, look, got a little bit tight." And they said, "Are you sure about that? Would you like to have a think about it?" And I said, no, I'm fine. I've got nothing more to say anyway. Well, they put up the replay and he bowled about 5 of them over. And they said, "Would you like to say any more now?" And I said, "No, I think the vision shows it all." So I think he ended up getting a couple of weeks anyway. Walsh is in after his date at 10 o'clock and he says, "How did we go?" I said, "Mate," I said, "You stitched me up there." I said, "You got 2 weeks. I hope she's a good girl. Go spend 2 weeks."
So the stewards, fair enough. They, without seeing both of you next to each other, I can kind of get why they would be like, "Oh yeah, that might be
That might be Nate.
That
Well,
might be
surely
Nate."
is Nate.
But
Yeah.
surely the jockeys that walked in were just like,
hang on.
"What are you
doing
here?"
in here?
It is, you know what, there's a lot that's unfair about it, but the fact that Tommy gets to do all of his storytelling without any chance to defend himself, Confetti Garden obviously looms as a chance, and Sunshine's one that's kind of attracted your interest.
She's
Tell
just
me
one that
why.
I've followed for a while, and I know that you've ridden her before, Tommy, for the Dryden and Snowden yard, so you've obviously got a good affinity with the race as well. You've won 2 country championships, but it's it's open, especially when you look at where they've come from, here, there, and everywhere. And it's very hard to line up the form. But
And she's just enigmatic, isn't she, Tommy? You don't
Yeah.
really ever know what you're going to get, but you know that her good is very good.
Yeah, exactly. And she's definitely gone to another level this preparation. She was quite a hard horse to deal with in preparations gone by, but she's definitely come on a lot. And I just love her versatility. If she draws well, you can put her on speed. If she draws bad, you can ride her a bit quieter, like she did in the lead up at Nowra. And you know, she handles wet or dry conditions. She's just a really good, tough racehorse. And I think this is a year where we haven't got a Clearly Innocent or an Art Godot or horses like that I've ridden in the past that have been absolute standouts. So it's a pretty even race. Obviously, the favourite will be hard to beat, drawn well, but my mare makes her own luck, and she's been primed for this race the whole preparation. So I'm really excited to be aboard her, and they're really good connections, and obviously Keith Dryden, who I've known for a long time, and Libby. So really pleased to be back aboard her, and hopefully we can overcome the bad draw.
we've had some of the all-time great pushers on this show over the last 2 or 3 years, haven't we?
Yep.
Would you like to push us into one on the weekend?
On the weekend, I'd say at a little bit more of a price. The filly I'm riding in the last Island Deck. Always had a really good opinion of her. Tried to stretch out to 1400 a couple of times, and I just feel she's better over the shorter trip.
They opened up at $51.
You had a piece, did you?
Oh, you watch the trial. You'll find it hard not to. But Island Deck's always had ability, but the trial, like Tom had to be at his best just to keep everything, just to not explode.
Feet in mouth is what they say, I think.
Yeah. Hey, one last one, and Em told me not to ask, but stuff it. Federalist. What happened the other day?
I was just protecting you.
What happened with Federalist? And tell me, how much is under the bonnet? Right. Okay.
I'm not sure. Never got to test him out, but Federalist is a very nice horse. He's going to be better next preparation. I really think he's going to be a lovely 3-year-old. This is an argument that Hawks and I are still having. Well, it's not still having because I've already been replaced on him, so I guess they've won.
I guess they won the argument.
Yeah, they won. But they weren't very happy with me being on the barrier 2 and the leader drew barrier 1. So I found it very hard to not find myself there. And I've been yet to find a parachute to get over horses and lock the weight. So it's, as I said, it's a running argument. We're at a Bucks party on Sunday, me and Hawk, and he brought it up at a table full of jockeys. So that was
he wouldn't have been popular.
He got a little bit back. So,
yeah.
No, he wasn't, but he never is on. But we love Michael, and I love the Hawkses and love riding for him, and it's one that hopefully won't come back to bite me. I'm sure I'll end up back on him at some stage, but it won't be Saturday.
How was Michael at the Bucks? I know you would have performed, but how did he go?
Well, everyone says, how was this person? How was that? And I'd had enough drink where I can't remember anything, really. So
perfect.
I guess I'm my best on ground.
Self-appointed. Thank you, Tommy. Good luck on the weekend, mate. Great to see you winning Group 1s again, as I said, off the top. We always appreciate you coming on. So we'll see you out there on track.
Thanks, guys. And once again, I really appreciate you always remembering Nathan for who he was, bringing to any show that comes around, especially this time of year. It's very special to us. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's our pleasure, mate. We always want to honour his legacy and his memory, and we do that with the medal over the course of the next 2 Saturdays. So hopefully he can win another one.
Yeah.
We move on, and there was a nice little push at odds. Island Deck, if you didn't catch it, because that connection was a little sketchy.
You got to catch it.
Yeah.
You got to catch the trial.
Okay.
Watch it, Em. Do yourself a solid.
Let's go back and take a look at the Group 1s for the weekend then, and just give our thoughts on how things are going to line up at Royal Randwick for Group 1s. And they're all absolute belters. There's a couple that I'm, to be honest, I'm struggling to pick 2 or 3. Like in the TJ, and we'll go there in a minute, that's one of the toughest Group 1s I think I've seen in a long while. But we'll start with the English size, because you did mention Federalist for the 2-year-olds over the 1,400 metres, Wadton. Your favourite?
Yeah, Watson favourite, and I thought an 11 out of 10 steer in the slipper. Some were critical, which blows my mind.
Can't see how you can be critical of that steer.
I think you could be more critical, and another friend of the show, Huey on Rivellino was probably a touch more indecisive, and in hindsight, it's all well and good to say this, he probably would have hung towards the inside and looking for luck. That said, that's what Godolphin did, and they didn't have the luck. But Rivellino, to my eye, was the best size preview out of the slipper. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he deserves to be favourite on what he's achieved so far this preparation. He nearly won a slipper. So horses that have won this race in the past 10 years to have come through the slipper and placed, the stats are awesome. So Yankee Rose second in 2016, Microphone second in 2019, Animo second in 2021, Fireburn, of course, won the slipper, and then you've got Militarised Manal and also King's Legacy who come through the slipper. So that is the ultimate form reference for that event. Rivellino, if he can park a little bit closer and not find trouble, he's going to be the risk.
Can he?
I think that's his pattern now. I think that's the way you got to ride him. He's drawn inside Wadton, but he's got more tactical speed, I would suggest. So he would need a lot of speed and pressure on, like we did in the slipper, obviously. That's why he was able to rattle home so quickly. I'm with Team Coolmore on that one, and with their other one in State Visit as well at a price. I think that's one to take a look at in the size. We're going to skip through these because we've been yapping all day. So this TJ, 1,200 metres, what a field. It is tough as they come. Overpass, 2 Group 1s to his name, 2 Quackers to his name. He'll head over to Perth for another tilt at that rich race in the West after this.
Flies fresh.
A lot of them do. But what do you do with this field?
Yeah, but not all of them are on speed. He'll get things his own way, I imagine. I could understand why people would be keen on Overpass. Briasa is the one to beat, I think, especially if they can capitalise on the draw and settle that little bit closer. If they're only 2-3 pairs back, I think Briasa with clear air should be winning, but very open. No disrespect to Jolly Star. Jimmy the Star.
Jimmy Star.
Jimmy Star. He is a star.
He is.
So he will need a lot of speed on. I don't think we're getting it.
Yeah, and I think as well his pattern similar probably to Rivellino as well. He just gets back, flashes home late. I'll be happier to see him on a bigger track at Randwick than at Moonee Valley. That's not his go. He was going to be hard fetch winning that.
Yeah.
The one I want to have an each way play on is Komochi. There's a lot to this setup that I really, really like. So, yes, she flies fresh, and that is why they have kept her a few weeks in between runs. She jumps up from the 1,000, which is not she was brilliant in the challenge over a very unsuitable trip. Jumping up to the 1,200, she gets back, so the wide gate doesn't worry. You got the madman in Nash on board. She's just the one that I think could run a hole at a big price. And then Switzerland blinkers first time.
Might need 5 sets of blinkers. Jimmy Star, I think, will make the same run as Komachi. And I think Jimmy Star's got the more devastating turn of foot.
Okay.
So if there's to be a backmarker, I'd rather be with Jimmy. But I get your point. I wouldn't talk anyone out of anything.
As well. Jolly Star, we saw her win the Newmarket really well, bursting through the pack there down the straight. It's a cracking race. It always is, but this edition seems to have me scratching my head even more so.
How many chances in the Donny?
I've brought it down to 5.
I think you've done exceptionally well.
Yeah, I was brutal doing this race. Right. I had to really put my mind to it. I think Gringotts really hard to beat. I've been with Tom the whole preparation. I still think he can do it. Down the bottom, linebacker, Firestorm. Firestorm is so underrated, and her splits.
She was fantastic.
50 kilos on her back.
Yeah.
Draws nicely. Jay Ford. Oh, I think there's something like there.
She's one where I wonder whether the draw is good or not, just with race pattern. How caught up in amongst them are you likely to be from there? So Jay will have his work cut out, but agree. The past couple of runs, this preparation, Firestorm's just returned as a completely different beast.
Yeah,
gets in with no weight.
So what have you narrowed it down to?
I talked about that horse Firestorm with Brad yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, he thinks the race might be taken out by Kieran Maher. I was with another Will. I was kind of leaning more towards those down the bottom, Firestorm and Co.
If there's one up the top for me, it's Gringotts. If there's one down the bottom, it's probably Firestorm. And then in the middle, there's just a lot of unknowns there. So you've got a couple of the imported Yulong mares that we know that they're quality, Group 1 quality in America and in Europe, but we don't know how it translates here. First up, high pressure, testing Randwick Mile.
I just kind of
and
ignored.
Drawn poorly.
I ignored Moira and Co.
Yeah.
There's hype there. There's smoke there. But I mean, if I don't know.
Steffi Magnetica third up, peaks mile, but has been looking a bit like a woolly mammoth, which is partially just her.
The run prior was plain. The
first
up run was excuse riddled. I'm a bit annoyed because I was very pro Steffi start of the prep. She comes out and wins when I'm off.
There's a few others that you can bin, are there?
I'm not binning that many. I think NCAP's a hope off the back of last run as well. Another one that could capitalise if there's a little bit of speed early. So there are a lot to discuss. We don't have time for them all. The Derby, Aliana could spoil the party for the boys there. I would imagine we've got a Kiwi visitor in Willie Dewitt. So a few different angles and a few different talking points there. She was devastatingly unlucky not to beat broadsiding last start.
I agree. And if she's the risk to Willie Dewitt, I mean, he is a superb stayer. He won a New Zealand Derby by 2.5 lengths. That's not easy to do.
Are their
with a great
stays better than ours?
day. Pardon?
Are their stays better than ours?
I think so. King of Thunder, Willie Dewitt, Aliana, backeting up from Tuesday. Interesting. Chanois. Got my slight queries on the Victorian form. Because you look at Aliana, she comes out of a Group 1, and Chanois been stepping up through the grades. I think he's a really, really good horse, but to win 5 on the bounce, including a Group 1, very hard to do.
Speaking of Victorian form, I need to apologise to Victoria and to Neil Payne. Yesterday, interviewing him, I said, and this horse's form was good overseas, last preparation. Gave me the most confused look, fair enough. He said, overseas? I said, I have no idea why I just said that. Apologies. Interstate. Victoria goes, technically, did go to Tasmania. Maybe you could argue that it was correct, but I apologise.
Shipping them over is tough to do, but I just think this gelding by Tarzino, I think he's a serious horse.
Who's the headline act on Saturday across all of the races?
Oh my God, there's so many, Ben. I'm pumped for Saturday. Headline act. I mean, there's a few in each race. What would you say? Jolie Star, maybe? Like, she's got a big support base. I think in the Doncaster, I mean, Gringotts now has got that Group 1, but I always felt like he's flown under the radar because he's been winning those pop-up races, so to speak. But now we know, like, he's a quality Group 1 performer.
We need to stop calling him pop-up. When you look at his prize money, you realise.
I agree.
Hey, country champs, quickly.
Yes, you go. That's your area of expertise.
I always try to look at the strongest qualifiers to try to make my way in. Maddie has a heavy hand. Tribeca's probably the horse for me.
Tribeca Star.
Yeah, so that's the way I'm leaning. I didn't think there was much between either of those out of that qualifier. I'm not taking anything away from Gallant Star, except to say that that is a very soft way into the race. You can't do anything about it. That's where you are. But I don't think they'll be leading. We'll see a completely different race shape. He'll be competitive, but he's not on top for me. You?
I'll have something on Tommy's on Sunshine. But Canny Hell as well is another one I'm keen to maybe follow into the race. Katie McDonald did a great story on board him a couple of weeks ago, and there'd be scenes at Randwick if he were to win.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We have gone well over time. Enjoy day 1 of the championships.
You too.
And I can't wait for day 2 because we'll have plenty more to discuss. Punt well. We'll see you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.